By configuring the appropriate rights and permissions, everyone added to the same group automatically has the same settings that have been set up for a specific group. After a template is in place, a network share needs to be created to store the roaming profiles. Designate the group of users to receive the profiles, whether it's sales or data entry. When creating roaming profiles, limit access to the shared folder by only permitting the groups who need access to it. So to just set appropriate NTFS permissions and rights accordingly. You would actually go to Active Directory for that. You just go to the computer. You go to System Properties, User Profile, and you pick up. Then you push Copy to, and you select someone or a group, I should say, to add to your group. And speaking of policies and permissions, I think Joe, can you take over?
Clean this little thing up on the board here before I start. Groups policy is something that is applied through Active Directory users and computers. What group policy is made for is that it provides a centralized point for ease of administration of, basically controlling your users and what they can do. There are actually settings where you can make it so people can't change their desktop. There's all sorts of stuff in there. There's 2 ways to implement a group policy, and it all depends on if you have a program called a Group Policy Management Console installed on your domain controller. I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of the difference between the two. But in the plain way, through Active Directory users and computers, you would right-click an object, go down to Properties, and then there's a Group Policy tab, and you have to assign individual policies to individual objects, and it gets confusing. Here, I'll show you. This is when you right-click an object, like this object's California, go to the Group Policy. This is the only way to know which GPOs, or Group Policy objects, are associated with that object. I'm using the word object a lot. Don't get confused now. But yeah, it's real confusing. So Microsoft made this wonderful product called GPMC, and this is what it looks like. And as you can clearly see, an object, it comes down and it shows which policies are attached to that object. This little arrow here indicates if it's linked or not. What that means is if the policy is applied. So say you have a policy that limits people's access to shut down the computer, and you need everybody to shut down the computer so that they can install updates that day. What you can do is you can right-click it and turn the link off, and then everybody will be able to shut off their computer at that point in time. I prefer group policy management because it's a much simpler tool to use to manage your users and groups. Now, both methods, using regular Active Directory computers and Group Policy Management Console, they both use the Group Policy Object Editor. Now, if you've ever played around on your home computer at home and you got into something called local security policies, you'll notice that the Group Policy Object Editor looks very similar to that. There's a few extra objects for controlling domain functions, but other than that, it's basically the same. I think, yep, here's a screenshot of it. And there are quite literally thousands and thousands of things that you can control. to give your users either access to, or you can use like audit policy to set events that will pop up in the event viewer, so that say when somebody logs on or logs off, it'll put an event in the event viewer that tells you the success or failure, or however you choose to audit that particular object. Like I said before, to apply an object, you have to link it to a GPO. Through Active Directory users and computers, you just put it in that blank field on the screen a couple slides ago, and then through GPMC, it's clear to see it. It makes another subtree in there, and it has the name of the policy there. And you can tell by the arrow if it's currently linked or link disabled. When you apply a GPO to objects, like it applies in the Active Directory scheme of things. So you could apply it to the domain level, and it would then go down to every OU that you created. That policy would be implemented on, and that's the property of inheritance. It is possible to block inheritance, but that's a special circumstance, requires procedures. And then the other special property of a GPO is, say you applied a GPO at the domain level, and you need your IT manager's organizational unit to not have that policy applied to it. So what you can do is you can create another policy that conflicts with the original one. And the one that gets applied last is the one that is effective. So like if you make it so that users can't shut down the computer, but IT managers can, you can assign a separate policy with the same object, and the first one's enabled, can't shut down the computer, and the second one's disabled. The one that gets applied last is applied, so IT managers can shut down the computer. Did I lose anybody on that? Because that's pretty confusing to try and explain. Yeah, and now I get to talk about what we implemented in our group policy. We implemented a password policy for each of the domains. We made it 8 characters in length. That's just pretty much a standard complexity. I didn't enable the complexity requirement because I don't want people to forget their passwords. But 8 characters in length, and you can't use the same password over a year's period. So I set it as 12 passwords remembered, and you have to change your password every 30 days. And when you first change your password, you have to change it for 10 days. And that's what this first bullet point means. It's quite a lot, and it's summed up real short, but it's a long explanation. We set a lockout policy for no tolerance, I guess you'd say. If you fail your first attempt, and then you fail the second attempt, you cannot log on to your computer. You have to contact an administrator to get your account unlocked. And what this threshold is set to 30 minutes. What that means is if you fail the first time, you can wait 30 minutes, and then you get your 2 attempts again, and you don't lock your account out. And then we set an audit policy for the success and failure of logins.